If you're adopting to fill a void, please don't adopt. This isn't one of those posts where I tell you my adoptive parents meant well, because they didn't. My adoptive mom and dad adopted after infertility. Not because they'd processed that grief or were ready to take on the reality of parenting traumatized children, but because they were chasing some idealized fantasy of what adoption could be. For my mom, it was tied up in religion and romanticism. She was obsessed with Anne of Green Gables. She wanted to adopt her very own quirky little orphan who would be grateful and compliant and melt into the family like some kind of redemption arc. She didn't get that. She got me. From day one, I wasn't enough. I didn't fit her fantasy. She started writing public blogs about how hard adoption was. Compared parenting me to a game of snakes and ladders, like every difficult moment meant sliding back to square one. She said adopting was like being a long-term foster carer without the money, the respite, or the support. That's how she saw it. She wrote about how she was never maternal, didn't even want babies, and how adoption didn't turn out the way she hoped. She adopted older children to skip the baby stage as she thought it would be easier or less full-on. But the reality was the opposite, and she clearly wasn't ready for it. They called their parenting authoritarian, but the truth is, it was controlling and emotionally cold. They didn't try to understand trauma, they wanted obedience. They didn't want to connect, they wanted quiet. And when I couldn't deliver that, I got blamed for the whole household's problems. I was treated like the reason things were hard, like my trauma was the issue, not their total lack of preparation or empathy. Then I got sent to foster care. She blogged about that too. Wrote about whether or not they should take me back, saying I might undo the progress my brother had made while I was gone. Like I was some kind of contagion. She was literally weighing up whether to bring me home based on whether I'd mess things up. And her husband's solicitor apparently told them that if they tried to bring me back and it didn't work out, social services might remove both of us. So what did they do? They left me there. Sacrificed one child to keep the other. And now here I am, years later, reading the words of someone who adopted me while grieving infertility, hoping to recreate a happy childhood, thinking a couple of kids could complete some broken dream. It didn't work. Because adoption doesn't always fix that. If you're adopting to fill a void, don't adopt. We're not a cure for infertility. We're not a second chance at your ideal family. We're not your emotional band-aid. We're not here to heal your grief. And we're definitely not your fucking Anne of Green Gables. Religious people adopting because they think God will make it work is terrifying. Kids are not miracles. They're not divine tests. If you're parenting based on what the Bible tells you rather than what your child needs, don't adopt. If your plan is to pray your kid better instead of getting them trauma-informed support, don't adopt. If you think obedience is more important than understanding, don't adopt. I've met a lot of other adoptees my age and way too many of them were adopted into strict, religious households. These are the kids who now have personality disorders, who struggle with addiction, who are suicidal or completely estranged. It's not always just about being adopted, because yes, adoption itself is traumatic even in the best situations with good adoptive parents. But when you add religious guilt, emotional neglect, and parents who are unequipped and living in a fantasy, it becomes fucking toxic. I'm not saying every religious adoptive parent is like this, but in my experience, the worst stories always start with they were very religious and end with it was all part of God's plan. You can grieve the loss of having biological children. That pain is real. And that grief doesn't magically go away when you adopt. In fact, if you haven't faced it, if you're just trying to escape it, it will bleed all over your parenting. And kids like me end up the collateral damage. We are not your fantasy. We are not your redemption story. We are not your second best. We are not your cure. Adoption, if it happens, should be out of love. Real, selfless, informed love. If you want to be a parent, then yes, of course go for it. But don't go into it trying to fix something missing in your life. You need to be equipped. You need to understand trauma. You need to be prepared for hard questions, for pain, for a child who may even resent you sometimes, and you deal with that. You don't go online and bitch about it in public blogs or make yourself out to be the victim or even blaming your adoptive children as to why it's all gone wrong, if you haven't put the work in. That's not parenting. That's emotional irresponsibility. And it's disgusting.